Hi, welcome back to our Thursday episode of Coldstream Rod Shop. I'm Derek Fraser, and this week we're going to keep on working on the two 5-window coupes. For those of you new to the channel, we're working on two 5-window coupes. One we call the Moncton Coupe because that's where it came from, and the other one we call it the New York Coupe. Sometimes I transpose those names, but if I remember correctly, this is a New York Coupe. That's the Moncton Coupe. So in this episode, we're going to be working on a few things on the inside of the trunk. One of the things we did in a previous episode was that we made 32 Roadster sub-rail extensions. I thought they were the same or close to what they were on a 5-window coupe. They are not. They're not that hard to make. I'm going to show you how to make it in this episode, but the back half of a 5-window coupe is different, and then actually a 3-window coupe is also different. The front half is pretty much the same. So I'm going to show you what my thought process is over here on the 5-window coupe. But this piece actually fits right down in there. So got the light on so you can see the piece here. It goes down in the back, and it fits into the same place on the 5-window coupe. It's just not the same shape. So over here on the 5-window coupe, I've started making it. I've made the front piece like I did before. I'm making on a wood buck. I'll show you in a couple seconds. So that fits here. The one thing I found out was that the 5-window coupes actually have the rear section shaped like this. So if you go on the United Pacific website, who makes a complete reproduction 32 Ford coupe, it looks more like this. So it fits in the back, kind of like that, but it leaves a gap here in the corner. And I guess the sheet metal must fold up there and cover it or something. One of the things different about a 5-window coupe versus a Roadster is that the rear tail panel is actually 3/4 of an inch longer. So the corner actually tips down more on an angle going into it. So using the Roadster style one is a little more complicated. This will work, but what I've done, I've kind of made a hybrid piece. So it's kind of shaped like the Roadster. It's going to be able to dip down. So this is kind of, I've got to tweak that a little bit more and make it come into the corner a little better. But I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to make these pieces up like this and then weld them together. I've got to dolly this in the corner. That way it'll fit better. Over on here on the Moncton Coupe, you can see, actually the camera lady have to come over on the other side. So that fits on that one pretty good. So my plan right now is to make those sub-rail extensions like that. The other thing in the video, my plan to work on is actually make the drip rail supports. I've also made those previously off of a wood buck, but essentially that piece goes, oops, wrong side. That piece goes right here, like that. There's an original one. I used the pattern for it. So that's what we're going to do in this episode. Make these up, and I'll show you how I do it. I'm really picky, so I decided to remake my wood buck. As I said, the corners, it drops away towards the back. It's also a little shorter than what it is on a Roadster too. So it dips down a little more into the tail panel, and it's actually a little shorter. So what I did, I made up a brand new wood buck out of maple, and I shaped the edges down so that this point is actually lower than where it is at the tail panel. So now this will help with the fit. So I made 2 of those up so far. I had someone comment on the YouTube about using a power hammer. It works. It worked really good, but it beats the crap out of the wood, or at least the way I do it anyway. So I may use the power hammer. I'll show you a clip of me doing it with the power hammer. But essentially, I'm going to take a piece of flat stock like that. I've got marks here set up on my wood buck. I'm going to put it in place right about there. Sorry, just going to position it right before I put it in the vise. Oh, it does not want to cooperate. Guess it doesn't want to get beat. So I'm going to take that, put it in the vise like this. I'm going to start on the other side. And essentially, now I'm just going to take the hammer and tap the edges over. This section here needs to be stretched quite a bit, so it takes a lot of persuasion. Use my, I guess it's a door skin hammer. Got a nice round edge here. I can whack it on the side here and just keep stretching it. Done this for you before, so we'll just insert the stop motion of using the power hammer. But that's it for making these pieces. I made 2 right sides, so I'm just going to carry on and make 2 left sides, and then I'm going to weld the forward section to it. I continued working and I made up all the individual pieces, the rear half and the forward halves of the sub rail extensions. On the New York Coupe, you can see inside here, I've started to position them inside to get them ready to cut and fit, and then subsequently weld them together. Over here on the New York Coupe, I've actually got one all fitted and welded in place, the hole drilled, and it's got the bolt down through the frame. On this side, I have this one made up as well. I just want to show you the difference, I guess, between like a Roadster sub-rail extension and a 5-window. If you make it in a Roadster style, like I said, the 5-window sub-rail extensions actually go straight this way, and I guess there's something, piece of sheet metal or something that meets up with it. So there's a difference between the two. You know, profile-wise, it's a little different. As I said, the corners tip up or tip down a little bit more on a 5-window than what they do a Roadster. And the angle, the corner is actually a different shape. They look the same, but they're not, I guess, is the point. So this one's been all fitted, ready to weld in. So, oh, and just want to show you that I don't make it right the first time. So here, that was my attempt at making them like a 5-window. And here are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 successive attempts to basically get the right shape to go in that corner. So camera lady's probably not that happy that I wasted this much metal. Not so much that I didn't try, but now we got to go buy some more metal. So I'm going to just position this one in here. There we go. A lot of noise. Yeah, the washer's in the way there. There. So this one, I'll probably have to dolly it ever so slightly so it matches up with the fender well. I'll weld it in place. I'll get that one done. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually weld this floor in place. It's ready to go. And I'll continue on and go over and do the same thing on a New York Coupe. So follow along, we're not done yet. I showed you how I made the rear section of the subrail extensions here and the buck. I didn't talk about how I made the forward section. It is on another video, but essentially it's the same process. I made a wooden buck, the shape of what I wanted it to be. Cut out basic, after trial and error, cut out a piece of sheet metal. The sheet metal is then placed on the wooden buck here. I've got some lines drawn, again trial and error. There's a top section that goes on it. And the same approach is taken. I just basically put clamps on this and I bend the edge over. So it's you know, it's kind of like a simple, crude way of doing things, but it has a good result. It forms into this forward section of the subrail extension. At the beginning of the video, my plan was to do the subrail extensions and the drip rail supports. I did accomplish getting two things done in both coupes. What it turned out to be was putting the subrail extensions in, welding the actual floor in place because it kind of all had to go at the same time. We've got the rear bolt holes through and into the frame, so that's in position. So floor, subrail extensions ready to go to the next step. So the Moncton coupe is done. I also cleaned off all of the welds on the corners that I hadn't done in the previous video. So they're cleaned up. And over here on the New York coupe, I carried on. I did the same thing. This floor was a little harder to put in. I think it's made by a different manufacturer. It was trimmed on the edge a little bit much, but it's everything's all spot welded in place. Both subrail extensions are in, and happy where it's at. Everything's fitting square. That's it for this video. Like I said, got two things done. It just wasn't what we planned in the beginning of the video. On the next video, we're going to carry on working on the back sections of both of these coupes, more than likely using some of the parts I made in previous episodes. But stay tuned. Please follow us next week. Please like, share, tag, and subscribe, and send me your comments. Everybody have a great one.